Hello and welcome to the Seer 365 sessions. Every week we have a conversation with somebody from the Microsoft world and we just try to learn from each other. And this week I'm really looking forward to this one. So we've got the group CEO of Mint Group who will be talking to us all about things Mint. He's the chief Minty and his name's Carol. So we move that across and there we go. Hello.
How are you doing, Rich?
I'm doing well, my friend. We caught up just before the stream. So if you'd like to abuse Welsh rugby, feel free to get it out of your system. I know.
And I don't have to do it. Your team is doing it for you.
I know. When I saw the result, I was like, of all the weeks for them to decide to forget how to play rugby, it had to be this week. So that's good. Yeah, so tell me a little bit about yourself and about Mint.
Yeah, sure. Rich, Carl Latour, I've been in this Mint journey for almost 22 years. Entrepreneur, business in school, business university, and onto this. The Mint journey has been super interesting. Always been a Microsoft partner. Very early on realized that reinventing the wheel over and over is just madness. We did the first implementation of SharePoint 2001, which was still running on the web storage system in SA, and kind of adopted the Microsoft platforms as they came out. Sold the business twice, bought it back twice, and have since spent some time growing it. So Mint is today a Microsoft All of Cloud partner across the 6 solution designations, with industry focus around financial services, education, health, public sector, and manufacturing. And we're about 350 people, offices in Johannesburg, Cape Town, London, Austin, Texas, and more recently, we've got our first Aussie in the mix. And we kind of consistently look at ways to leverage technology in a better way for our customers, and obviously leverage technology ourselves to implement better for our customers. And yeah, it's been a really fun ride, and we're enjoying the growth and learning from partners like yourselves and others we meet across the world.
Well, and that's an awesome segue. So thanks for that. And by the way, if anybody is watching this live and wants to leave comments, it'll pop up on the screen for us to comment on. Ideally, nothing too abusive about Welsh rugby. That would be cool. Thank you very much. So I know, and clearly, well, not clearly to people watching, but we know that we've known each other a good while now. And one of the things that, I've always been impressed that you've managed to build such an awesome business, from an area that maybe not as resource rich in Dynamics people that are already baked. You've had to create your own people and all the challenges that come from, affectionately, I will refer to it, having a business at the bottom of the planet. But so talk about partnerships. That seems to be a common thread you've always had in the way that you work. So how is it that, what do you look for in partners? How do you work with them? Are there any sort of guidelines that you think of when you're working with other partners?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very passionate topic for us. I think our business is designed around people, of which partners are a key component. We often say Mint is a talent company. It happens to be an IT, that partners of talented companies. And I think that the key reason for that is we again realize that you can't do it all yourself. And I think what is good about being a small business and realizing that and growing into a bigger business is that sometimes your role is the prime, sometimes your role is supporting, sometimes you're there for differentiation. And that's ultimately what it's going to be about. The partnership has to be around the client outcome, and it's got to be grounded in the right values. So if you had to ask me what are the key things we look for, we look for like-minded people. People with integrity. For us, it means doing what you say and saying what you do. It's pretty straightforward. It's not that hard to do, but it's hard to find people that would consistently do the things that they say they will, and vice versa. And things like be passionate about what you do. Our mission is we talk about we create tomorrow through innovative technology solutions. And even the first word of our mission statement is we, and that means we work with other people, with other partners. And if you kind of take it back to what I said earlier, we realized early on reinventing the wheel is not a great idea. So we started partnering with Microsoft at that point in time on their platforms. Now, I think at that point in time, for those of you that was around in 2001, 2002, working with content management server and SharePoint server, it would be a push to call it a platform. It wasn't, and it was very immature, but it was the right direction. And and I guess that's the key thing, is to stick through these things. People get very used to doing things in a certain way, and you got to find partners that's willing to. I'd say probably a key thing for us is a partner that sees a little bit more medium to long term. It's not just about the current opportunity on hand. It's about how you're going to transform things together, and also being able to play the role that's needed of you within the partnership. So sometimes we partner with GSIs, and we're there to help them with execution, and sometimes we lead the deal, and they partner with us. All depends on the client and the specific outcome. So our partnerships is tough. We've also learned different lessons in different countries. I would say the more developed nations that we do business, developing nations we do business in, are generally more open to partnerships in the SI space specifically, because there's not that much skill. So you kind of have to partner to kind of get things going. Where the markets are a bit more set, we find a lot of the people are not used to partnering with other SIs on deals, and it's kind of a land grab, and they want to own everything themselves. And sure, that is a strategy. It's not our strategy, because the amount of talent requirements, it's just increasing, and it's not going to go anywhere. So yeah, in short, that's as about as short as I can talk about partnerships. I think the key thing for us is find people that's like-minded, that want to go on a medium to long-term journey for mutual success. We work on the principle of win with. How do we win with each other, and construct the agreements as such? So where you help us and vice versa. These things are agreed up front, and we've taken decades of learning into those agreements. So it's very rare that someone would come back and say, no, they want any changes, because it's truly constructed in a way that makes both parties win, or in some cases more than two.
Yeah, look, and clearly, we've known each other well. I think that your lack of ego on this one is actually, it sounds like something that should be fairly common, right? Where sometimes you're going to be, like you said, priming it. Sometimes you're going to be backing somebody else up, and I do think that's actually quite important. We were talking to the guys at Ardenfort a few weeks ago, and about similar topics really, but and they were talking about that win-win as well, and making sure that it's repeatable. And certainly that's something that we've seen as well, that repeatability. And by the way, hello, Benjamin. Appreciate you saying hello to us. There you go. Somebody else. I don't know if you're a Minty, Benjamin, but if you are, then there you go. Chief Mint is saying hello. There you
go. Yeah, I think that it's interesting. You talk around. You've got to spend some time to understand what does a partner mean to you. So you have vendors and you have partners. I mean, that's the first thing you've got to make sure you differentiate. And then secondly, what is the type of partnership you're going after? Is it a go-to-market partnership? Is it we're going to white label something together? Are we going to disrupt together? These different things require different type of ways of working. And it might be a nuance, but we always very particular around how we phrase things. You kind of have the win-lose scenario, and then you have the win-win scenario. The problem with win-win, and I say it with tongue in cheek, is there's always a compromise.
Yeah.
And that's why we kind of purposely call it win-with.
Yeah.
We got to go stand side by side and figure out what are we taking to market together, and how are we going to win on that together, and who's doing what. And that's why it requires a consistent dialogue. So you're going to set it up. And even in our partnership with you guys, we've got things baked, and we're going. And then there's always like 4 or 5 new scenarios or different things that you didn't think about. That's where you sit down and you go, well, what does this mean? And how are we going to handle that? And how do we make sure commercially it's going to work for both partners? And just having open, frank conversations to drive collective wins is really key. And ultimately, it's about the client, right? We can all have all these fun things, but if clients don't want what we want, and we can't deliver value to them, in the way they want to buy and in the way they want to deliver, that's where it gets a bit more tricky, where you have to spend more time.
So obviously this is a bit of a strange question, really, but because you've been doing it for so long, but how do you find those partners that you're going to work with? Is it kind of, and clearly you've got a great reputation. Your network is not quite as good as mine, but not bad. How do you find those partners, or is it not that scientific and it's just like trial and error?
I would love to say there's a formula, but it's mostly like we're having a lot of conversations with different Microsoft geos around where we're expanding, where they want us to expand, where we're planning on expanding. And the topic always comes up, are you coming into the country, or are you going to P2P, or is it going to be a combination? And yesterday we had that with one of the Microsoft geos, and they asked us, like, what are the type of partners you're looking for? And I said, well, the obvious thing is get the value alignment and kind of looking kind of more longer term. But generally, if there's less conflict in the services, it's easier to start the partnership. But I think the other ingredient that's important is to understand what the partner wants out of the relationship. Last week we had a call with a partner in the UAE, and we have very similar services. And I was trying to understand why they wanted to partner with us. And it really came down to augmentation and needing more access to talent. And I said, well, that's not really a partnership. That's more of a when I run into trouble, I need capacity. I said, firstly, I think you're going to struggle to get that right today, because even where you can augment, there's a huge margin squeeze across the globe.
I'm laughing at the thought of any partner having spare capacity in the Dynamics channel anywhere in the world. So that's kind of my...
Yeah, I mean, if you have, you can please call us as well. Between our academy and the way we sell and deliver, we've changed. That's the only way we kind of just keeping up with the demand. But it's, the problem is that's not, in my mind, that's not a partnership. And that's not what we want out of a partnership, because we want to have a vested interest in the outcome around how we take it to market, how we differentiate together. That's partnership. What are we investing collectively to drive outbound, business for the next H? And because the problem with the augmentation side of things, it's always a rate conversation. And the days where the best talent in certain countries were a quarter of other countries is no longer there, because all the global players and all the regional bigger players are hiring people from all over the world. So the salaries, for example, in the developing nations is significantly increased, more so than they have in the developed side. So exactly for that, I mean, just to give you a sense, we could easily see someone getting an offer 50% higher than that. And we pay well, really well. And it's just because they will then work on projects and those in that side, and there's enough margin left. But even that is coming under pressure slowly but surely, because there used to be one or two people doing it. Now there is like a lot of them doing it. So now it's no longer just about the pay; it's about the opportunity and can I immigrate, and what is your working hours. So in a way, it's kind of stabilizing to a degree. But if you want to take the topic of partnership further, I think the partnership between Mint as a business and our Minties probably the most important one. We spent a huge amount of our time and effort obsessing around how we drive a good environment. And our head of people launched our new thriving framework last week at our delivery in Dava in Zabula, which is a nice bush resort, where we had the teams from the UK, Cape Town, and all over South Africa up here in the bush to talk around. It's no longer good enough for us to create an environment where our employees are simply engaged. If they're not thriving, we have a problem. So yes, we might be setting the bar really high, but I don't think we have a choice. It's all about the people. We have to understand. One of the things that Lauren's planning on doing as well is to set up conversations with each Minty and the respective teams to say, how are we driving a purposeful career development for you? And it's a different question to like, are you happy? Are you meeting your KPIs? So it's really ultimately, if you have happy Minties, you can have happy clients. And that doesn't work the other way around. A happy client can still be a prick and make all your people miserable. and I don't mean it bad. We all have good and bad people and moments, but fundamentally, we have a better control over the environment we create for people at Mint than we do at our clients. So if we can create a great environment for people at Mint and great opportunities, hence why we had to, from a business perspective and people perspective, expand globally, because our people want to have opportunities in multiple geos. They want to have opportunities to travel. They want opportunities to work in different countries, and also, there's kind of two segments to it. There's the junior people that's like junior to intermediate that's eager to travel just because they're not attached. And then there's the people that want to make a lifestyle change and move to another country and these kind of things. And I think as an employer in the Microsoft ecosystem, you're going to struggle to keep your people if you're not consistently thinking around these type of things. And then if there's other partners here today, I would like to open an offer. We have a program which I'm very excited to extend. It's the exchange program. Now, think about it like this. You have a consultant, he or she's been with you for 3 or 4 years. We have something similar. They want something else. They want to try something else. They're still very happy at your company. But you kind of get that itch and it's time to do something, where we literally swap consultants for a period, right? Call it a year, senior consultant for senior, whatever the case might be. It's good. They get exposure around how we work. Our consultant gets exposure around you work. And we bring that back to each other's companies, and we know it can even foster a good partnership between our organizations. So if there are partners interested, please, ping Rich and we can talk about that. But these are the type of programs.
I'll put up your contact details at the end of the call. So, but feel free to ping me as well. But yeah, so that's a really cool idea. It's a really interesting idea, because I think one of the things with Seer, and again, try not to talk too much about Seer on this thing, but is how similar a lot of partners are. So clearly there's a differentiation between every partner. I'm not saying that, but there's also a lot of similarities. So being able to slot them into a team on one of your projects from somebody else's, I think, and vice versa, would be really cool. And I'm sure a lot of people would appreciate that. Can I ask? Sorry, you go.
Yeah, I mean, the only ones you always have to check is work visas and things, but there's so many different options these days around how to handle that. So if the person physically wants to work in a different country, you got to look these things, but it's not too tough to manage. The other thing, talking about people and growing that out, is our most successful program around creating talent is our apprenticeship program. It's been running, I think this is the 9th or 10th year, and some of the people that now run our Dynamics delivery comes from this program. And it's basically taking anybody that's got 8 years plus working experience in any industry.
Right.
And we evaluate their consulting skill, not the technology skill. And we train them in technology. And it's worked incredibly well. I think we've got like 15 people in the current intake, and there will probably be more in the next one. We also place people at customers on this program. So it works really well, because it's not a junior person. It's a, let's call it a senior consultant that you're training into the technology space. We also more recently started taking people out of industry, so like healthcare and financial services. That brings that kind of to our fold, and then we teach them the technology side.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, look, I think I changed my mind about this as I've got older. But I used to think the technology bit was the hard bit, and now I actually think it's the industry knowledge, the soft skills, the ability to work with people. So the technology bit you can train. So again, really, really cool.
I think that it's become easier because the process of deployment and the process of DevOps, and there's a lot of things that control your quality a lot better gates and automation. So yeah, absolutely, technology is the easier part now.
So you've been talking about geo expansion a lot, and I do think, I mean, obviously there's global Dynamics partners out there, but there aren't many that have expanded as quickly as you have, certainly organically, as well as just blowing the wads of cash. When you're thinking about geo expansion, what's your kind of thoughts around that? As in, how would you select the market to go into? What are you looking for in that market? What's the kind of the cheat code to be successful?
I mean, there's obviously a couple of things that we look at. The first thing I look at is are there good golf courses in the country, and then kind of work backwards from there. But on a more serious note,
don't count properly. Yeah.
Yeah, it does help. It's definitely a bonus factor. But there's a couple of key things, right? So where are there white space? One of the things that a lot of partners get stuck in is we do X, and that's all we do, right? So you can learn it. You can learn an industry, right? It's easier to learn an industry than to learn all the technology and all the deployment and all these kind of things, right? So what we would do is we would have conversations with the Microsoft team to understand the white space where the local partners do not want to focus. So that's one area that we always do, and we did a lot of that in the Africa expansion. Then we kind of look at the competitive landscape, right? So who's the current incumbents? What does their market share look like? Who's growing? Who's not growing? And there's a lot of good public data on that stuff. And in the UK, there's a lot of good data in general that we're not used to. And then we look at market consolidation. So one of the reasons why we hit the UK market is a huge amount of the SMC partners were acquired in a very, very short space of time. Now, having been acquired and having sold Mint and bought it back twice, I know exactly what it does to an organization. No matter how well you plan it, you lose your momentum. You start becoming inward focused around integration. As much as you plan not to, you can't avoid it. Someone promised someone a promotion that no one knew about, that person leaves. So not to say that you shouldn't do these deals, but there's an opportunity in the chaos, right? So that's a good time to enter market. So if there's a lot of consolidation in the market, we would generally enter that market. Then in some markets, like we decided not to enter, and we work through partner, that's different. That's literally just trial and error in terms of how you drive it. And then it's what does the portfolio of companies look like? We want a set amount of our revenue coming from developed and a set amount developing. We want a set amount of it coming from annuity, a set amount coming from. So we kind of look at our investment portfolio across the companies. Probably the way Mint has managed to grow is interesting. So we kind of look at it as a talent acquisition rather than a business acquisition strategy. Mint Group consists of quite a few companies, each run by an entrepreneur that at some point in time either competed with us or we knew of in other areas. And a lot of the people that run Mint business today, kind of came through that. So they sold their businesses very successfully. And then after their period of exit and non-compete and these kind of things, once entrepreneur always won. You're gonna get itchy, you want to get things going, and if you have the know-how on a specific ecosystem, it makes sense to leverage it. So what we built with Mint is the capability to really accelerate that entrepreneur. So we did do the investment of that specific business in that geo or specific area, and leverage our brand and all our services, excuse me, to accelerate it. And over the years, we've really gotten a hell of a lot better at that. And that's got a lot to do with what we look at, what the group is about. So I think a lot of group companies or holding companies is all around standardization and driving efficiency. Our group is designed to drive differentiation and scale. So when I look at things, I go, the Mint businesses collectively is not ready for this thing, but in 18 months, it's going to need this thing. So then the group will invest in it, and we will say, well, this is what we're going to need to be different in like 2 years' time. None of the other companies would do the investments. And then when we get ready and we start consuming the services, those businesses then consume it on a success basis. Until such time as it becomes business as usual, and then we just do reverse out of the investment we've done, and then it becomes business. Because that gives us as a group the capability to always have our head like looking a little bit further, and instead of getting stuck into the day-to-day. And on top of that, learning from each of the different businesses. Not only do you have different geos that we have to consider, but the different stages of business. We have a computer vision SaaS product business in the US. That's a very different business that we're learning different lessons from. So yeah, I think it's an interesting, that's the way we've approached it. Are we going to consistently only do that, or are we going to be looking at some acquisitions? Time will tell.
Yeah. So we've been going about 25 minutes now. So I'm going to let you breathe and take some water. But so yeah, there you go. Not for too long though. So we're getting towards the end of the year. So we're coming up to 2023. What's your thinking? Is there anything that you're thinking for next year? Clearly, there's lots of turmoil out there. We've got a global recession, probably. We've got war in Ukraine. We've got lots of stuff that you can't really affect. Is there anything you're thinking about for FY23? Sorry, FY24 even.
Yeah, not more than what you said. I think you got to spend your time on the things you have a better level of control over than the ones you don't.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, to your point earlier, this business was founded in South Africa. We're pretty used to turmoil. We're pretty used to volatility. We're pretty used to things that we have to jump through that's not necessary. And that's not to say, I mean, I love my country, it's a fantastic place, but it's not always set up in a way that is conducive to easy business. And we do have a lot of challenges. So kind of our DNA is to handle these things. It's just a way of work. When COVID came around, it was, okay, cool, so what's the pivot? It's not like we don't have to put a change team together because we're just always in that mode. And we did learn a couple of really important, interesting lessons around resilience. But I mean, it was a tough period for our people, but it was good, from a business perspective in the end. And I would say it's more, if you had to ask me what's the one thing I'd say about through this period of uncertainty, it's our people.
Yeah.
Are they okay? Are they supported correctly? Are we giving them enough of what they need? Is there life changes happening in their lives that we need to be, like, is their children coming? Are they getting married? Are they moving? There's kind of these things that we track regularly anyway, but that is the one thing that we can help with.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for your time. I genuinely appreciate all the time we spend together anyway. I always feel a little bit smarter at the end of it. Not quite as smart as you with your Harvard MBA, etc. But as Welsh boys aren't quite as cool. So
but at least you can drink, man. You can pack a good beer.
Yeah, we definitely can't play rugby, but yeah. So I put your LinkedIn details there. So if you want to connect, please do. Mint's an amazing partner, inner circle partner for the last, I don't know how many years at this point, but a lot. Oh, 7 years, going for 8. Nice. So if you're interested in reaching out, you really should. Or if nothing else, go onto their website and look at some of their videos. They're some of them are hilarious. But yeah, so I'm going to end there. Thank you very much for your time. It was great to see you. I hope everybody out there has enjoyed today's session. I know I have, and I hope everybody has a great week. Thank you.
Thanks. Cheers all.